Well, there's no point you sitting down. I'm going to have you up again in a minute. I'd just like to introduce our beloved brother in the faith, the Reverend Wayne Lindsey. Heaven forfend that I should kill your applause there, but he's going to be our preacher today, and he pops down from Vegas every now and again to cool down when it becomes too hot up there. So please, a big round of applause for Reverend Wayne Lindsey.
Well, thank you. It is always wonderful to be with you here, and be back in Palm Springs, where it is warmer than it is in Vegas. One of the things about Sunday for me, in addition to church, is that Sunday nights, one of my favorite things to do is to watch on PBS Call the Midwife. Any other Call the Midwife fans here? The show, if you're familiar with it, it depicts what life was like in London's East End during the years following World War II and in the 1950s and into the 1960s. Every week we have this window into this world through a group of midwives and nuns. It's a place where sex and childbirth are presented to us as normal and natural parts of everyday life. There is great joy as children are born and come into the world, and there's great sadness as people suffer hardships and face difficult challenges. I find the show very touching and moving, and I'm just kind of wrenched all over the map, and by the end of it I'm usually in tears, and it's just one of those amazing things that I'm touched. And yet, every single show is preceded by an announcement that goes something like this. It says, the following program may contain content that is not suitable for all viewers. Parental discretion is advised. Well, the first thing I thought about when I began thinking about what I wanted to talk about today was that perhaps maybe I should get Joe to make a slide that said something very similar to that, something along the lines of, the following sermon may contain content that is not comfortable for all listeners. Discretion is advised. I'm telling you that up front because the twists and turns of this sermon and message may take us to places that may not be comfortable for some folks to hear people talking about that, and especially not in worship. Okay, with that said, and now that I have your attention, let's get back to today's scripture. The book of Acts presents us with a story that is both strange and mysterious, and yet at the same time there is something about it that is interestingly intriguing and oddly familiar. The text says that the disciples were gathered together in one place. The King James Version even goes a little further than that, and so far as to say that they were all with one accord, or that they were in agreement, that they were united in and through the Spirit in their midst. You know, that's a really wonderful thing when it happens, when everybody is on the same page. But I don't know about you, but based on my experience, those are pretty fleeting moments a lot of times. When you get a whole group of people who are all in agreement, it just doesn't usually seem to last for very long. And even Jesus had Judas, who seemed to be marching to a different drummer, even out of just a group of 12. But let's assume, for just a moment at least, that part of what makes this story special is that the disciples were so like-minded, that the disciples were so bound together, that there was in that room that day a palpable and perceptible and unmistakable and intensely tangible feeling in the room and in the air. The writer of the book of Acts describes what happened in very concrete and discernible terms. The sound of the wind, the sight of the fire. There were these bright and burning tongues of fire that descended and rested on those gathered there as they experienced the presence of the Spirit in their midst. They were on fire with God. They were on fire for God. Now this sounds a bit strange and bizarre, and yet, down through the ages, our saints and our holy people are usually depicted in our art. And actually, I was thinking about this, and I came and checked just to make sure from my recollection. If you look over here on this wall, you'll notice you've got St. Francis plus in all these stations of the cross here. Every single one of these holy people has a halo, or what we call a nimbus, that communicates this illuminated presence. Some traditions even call it an aura. Many of us have met folks who just seem to radiate the presence of the Spirit somehow when we met them. And that pervades and permeates through their daily lives. And it's a presence that just transforms them. Some folks that we meet just seem to shine, and we are drawn to them because of that. Sometimes our worship has this same quality to it. When we unite our hearts together in worship, sometimes we may feel an interior stirring in our spirits. And other times, some of us experience the power of the Spirit that is manifested externally, and not just internally. It's manifested as some sort of outward expression. We may be moved to the point of tears, or they just kind of well up in your eyes, they never quite flow out, or a little single tear flows down. Or we may feel what people call goose flash or goosebumps sometimes. They only last for a brief and fleeting moment. So brief sometimes that later we wonder, did that really happen? Did I imagine that? Maybe dismiss it. Just say, okay. Worship has the power to challenge us intellectually. And it also has the power, I believe, to touch us physically, so that we are renewed and that we are transformed by something that is real, something that is concrete, something that is tangible. For me, the power of the Gospels is vested in the fact that it is real and it is tangible. God cared enough about us and enough about how we feel and enough about what we experience to get up off the throne of heaven, as it were, and to come down here and to walk around among us and to experience life the way you experience it. To see life through your eyes. To walk in your shoes, to taste, to touch, to feel, to see. God knows what it's like to be you, because God has walked around in human form. Jesus was fully human, and I believe that that means he was human in every way that you and I are human. Unfortunately, we have a problem, and that is there's some major stuff missing from the Gospels. There's some serious stuff that is a part of my life, and some stuff that I suspect is a part of your life that the Gospel is just silent about. Now, in case you were wondering when we get to that part of the message when I told you that some listeners might be uncomfortable, well, this is it. And so if you need to excuse yourself and leave, then this is your opportunity to walk out the door. I mean, one of our great gifts in MCC to our community and to the entire world is that we believe that sexuality, all sexuality, and specifically our sexuality, was created by God.
Yes.
And is a gift from God.
Preaches.
Too many churches ask people to check their sexuality at the door. They act as if we cease to be sexual beings the minute we enter the sanctuary. We are expected to deny a significant and important part of our humanity and of who God created us to be. And in those churches, if sex is mentioned at all, it is generally in the context of sin, and not as something that is good, not as something that revives us, not as something that refreshes us, not as something that connects us with one another, not as something that connects us with God. Sexuality has been cleaved off or split off and divorced from spirituality for far too long. Part of our mission as MCC is to help folks to reconcile and to integrate their spirituality and their sexuality into the wholeness that God intended it to be when God created sex in the first place.
Right.
I don't think that God would have made it so pleasurable if God did not intend for you to enjoy it. And if God had not intended for you to do it, and if God had not intended for you to find joy in it and to be regenerated by it. So, by now you may also be wondering, but Pastor, what has this got to do with Pentecost? Well, just as the presence of the Spirit may express itself in physical and tangible ways, this spiritual energy, I believe, also goes in the other direction. You may have taken someone's hand and just felt your spirit soar. Even a brief kiss can make your heart jump for joy. Or your eyes may have walked across a crowded room and your spirit quickened. Our physical bodies are more than just some container to host your spirit. Our bodies and our spirits are linked together, are knitted together with holy bonds. I'm sure that by now St. Augustine is rolling over in his grave because he was all about denying the flesh. And unfortunately, we are still living with his legacy today that has caused so many people to split off and to put their sexuality on the shelf or in the closet because they have been taught that it was unclean or that it was unholy. Now, I'm not saying that all sex necessarily has spiritual dimensions to it. Sometimes, as they say, parts are just parts. This fits here, that fits there. Sometimes we just go through the motions, and it can be very mechanical. On the other hand, physical interaction is heightened and is enhanced when the spirits of those involved also commune together and join together to share a rapport and to share a unity and a harmony that brings them together in one accord. Go back to that one accord thing I was talking about earlier. Even if that is just for a brief moment that you experience that moment of unity and joining of spirits. And while we don't always and usually describe it as tongues of fire, I decided I'm going to leave that alone. But it does often get described as fireworks. Or we may feel like those early disciples that we have been caught up in a mighty whirlwind that just fills the entire house. In addition to joining our spirits together, I think that sex is even better when we acknowledge that God is with us in those most intimate moments. In those times when we invite God into our bedrooms may be every bit as important as invoking the presence of God in this sanctuary. I know people that include prayer as an integral part of what they do in their bedrooms. Now, having said all this, I would be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge that there are some folks who may not currently have a sexual partner or may not have even had sex for years for one reason or another. And I would remind you that you are still a human being. You are still a sexual being. You are a living, physical body, and that your spirituality inhabits and includes all that you are in every single moment. When our spirits are free to flow through every fiber of our being, then we are aligned, and we are unshackled, and we are liberated to live with freedom. My sisters and my brothers, spirituality and sexuality are powerful allies that make us stronger and contribute to our wholeness when they are united and when they are connected and when they are joined together as one. Our scripture today goes on to say, God declares that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh. All flesh. All flesh. Upon your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young shall see visions, and the old shall dream dreams. Visions. Dreams. I don't know about you, but that sounds a lot like ecstasy and transcendence to me. Let us celebrate the fullness of all that God has created us to be, that it may truly set our souls afire, and that we may be renewed with strength to live each new day, refreshed and restored. May it be so. Amen.